You know the vibes. Another episode. This is a weekend special. We don't usually do episodes for the weekends, but we missed one day in the week. So we're here with a bonus episode for you of the Hoop Genius podcast presented by NBA 2K23. And if it's the weekend and you've got no plans, or you do have plans, if you want to make your plans better, hit the link in our bio and pre-order your copy of NBA 2K23, because then you can play it by yourself if you've got no plans. Or if you're meeting up with your friends, you can play 2K23 with your friends as well. What's better than playing video games with friends? The only thing better than that is listening to the Hoop Genius podcast, as I, as always, am joined by Mr. BJ Armstrong. BJ, how are you doing?
You know that. You know what it is, Mo. You already know what it is. You already know what it is, and you know how we get down.
BJ's living good. You know what I'm saying? He's been enjoying. He's enjoying. A lot has happened, though. Well, I say a lot has happened, but, you know, we often talk about it being a slow news day. Today is not completely fully dry news day. So the first thing is an old fan favorite of the NBA, Matthew Dellavedova, after playing in Australia for a number of years, is back with BJ. Do you know what team? Do you know where he signed?
Go ahead.
He signed with the Sacramento Kings. And we often make jokes. We often make jokes about Sacramento Kings, but I think it's a pretty solid signing. What do you make of it? Partially guaranteed deal. He last played for the Cavs in 2021. Then he played for Melbourne United for a season, a couple of years, because obviously pandemic. And then now he's back in the NBA.
Interesting signing. In particular because they have a lot of guards.
Mm-hmm.
They have Devion Mitchell, who to me is clearly a defensive caliber player, a high-level defensive caliber player.
Yep,
coming off your bench. You have De'Aaron Fox, who potentially could be an all-star caliber player.
Mm-hmm.
They just signed Malik Monk.
Yep,
I believe correctly. They just drafted the kid from Iowa,
Keegan Murray.
I
believe he's going to play at the 3 or the 4, though. So,
okay. Well, then you have Barnes. So I don't really
don't
look
forget
at
Kevin
positions.
Huerter from Atlanta.
Yes. So I don't really look at 2s and 3. I just look at, all of these guards. Okay. Because a lot of people play small now, right? You can easily have Steph Curry and Jordan Poole on the floor together.
Yep.
Okay. So when I look at this, I'm going, the Dellavedova thing doesn't really make sense to me. Just from a guard forward ratio. But if you just want multiple guards, I'm going to assume maybe Dellavedova and what's the head coach there now? The new coach, maybe they have some type of relationship.
This is why I think it's good, because he played under Mike Brown before when he was in Cleveland, did he not?
Yeah.
In his original stint, because people don't know, he was with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then he went to the Bucks for a couple of years before going back to Cleveland. But I think his first season in Cleveland, he was with Mike Brown, and I think they had a really good relationship.
Okay, well, maybe that's something here. But what I'm looking for from the Sacramento Kings this year is the following. I'm looking for an improvement in the win column.
Mm-hmm.
This team has been in the dormant of the NBA for many, many years now. And it's time for them to make a, push. Let's steer this ship in the right direction. Why do I say this? It's because they have what I would say, good young players.
They traded for Sabonis.
I think it's time for them now to be hovering around 500, to start consistently playing at somewhere near where they can get to the play-in game, get to the playoffs, and maybe get to the first round. So in saying that, if Dellavedova is the answer, and I don't see it in July, so be it. But I would hope that is the direction that this team is looking to go in.
So the reason why I say it's a good signing, and I don't think he's going to be the answer and fix all their problems, but he is a champion, and he's a very gritty player, shall we say. He gives it his
where
all.
Is he going to play? Or where is
in practice.
Well,
he's going to set the tone. Oh, they wish
sign
they
you
could
for
me.
practice.
They wish
Yeah, they could sign you for practice. This is the
Do you
NBA.
not think for a young defensive stud like Davion Mitchell, learning from Dellavedova, who won a championship by playing that defensive role at the guard spot, guarding Steph Curry, none other, that's going to be a good influence on him? And we often talk about NBA teams not having enough veterans. We often say there's not enough leadership in the locker room. We often say there's not enough veteran players that are showing these guys how to be professionals. That's why I think it's a good signing. I think adding a former champion who's in the archetype of one of your young stars that you drafted last year, I think it's a good thing. Do you not think it's going to have a positive effect on the young guards that are learning and navigating their way through life in the NBA?
I do not. I do not. And I like Dellavedova, but I do not. I don't think Dellavedova and Davion Mitchell are the same player.
No, I don't think they're the same, but they're similar in terms of defensively focused guards.
I don't see that, but okay. If you say so, I don't see it. Davion, I see is a player who could be potentially someday an all defensive player. I don't look at Dellavedova as that.
No.
I look at him as a fourth, fifth guard, spot up, hustle plays, hustle, effort, energy, second effort player. Davion Mitchell could very well be a starter in this league.
Yeah. Like a young Drew Holiday on the defensive side.
Yeah, this kid is he could be a high caliber player. Now, he's not as tall as maybe Drew Holiday, but he's a high caliber. He's not as big as Marcus Smart, but I think he has the same mentality.
Yes.
But I like him. But I see De'Aaron Fox has to be 36 plus minutes a night. Davion Mitchell has to figure out how to get in there. Keegan Murray is going to have to figure out how to get in there. Malik Monk, they just signed. Herder. It seems like a lot of guards to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone starts talking about practice and all of that. I don't see it.
It's the Udonis Haslem role.
It's a Udonis Haslem is a unique situation. It doesn't apply to everything. You can't just say this is Udonis Haslem this is different than what we're talking about. This team right now, they're struggling to find their identity within the NBA. I mean, they're the longest tenured team in the league currently that hasn't made the playoffs. They're going on 15, 16 years.
Yeah, like 04, 05. There's not a player in the league currently that's played against the Sacramento Kings in the postseason ever.
Okay.
There is no active player.
So, again, they seem to be guard heavy at this point. Maybe I don't know. I'm going to reserve, but I don't understand the following. If De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, Kevin Herter, Davion Mitchell, Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes, it seems like that's pretty solid at the guards. That seems really solid to me. I just don't see any more space for any more ball handlers or players. But again, what do I know?
Well, I like it. I think adding veterans into a locker room, this is something that we discussed when Jamal came on the show. He was saying there's not enough veterans in locker rooms. And speaking of Jamal, he's got some young talent coming up to Seattle to play in his pro-am, the crossover. Chet Holmgren, Paolo Banchero, two of the top picks in this year's draft. We don't often see this, B. There's not been many times where, two of the top picks in an NBA draft have decided before they even got their NBA careers underway to go head to head in a pro-am. And my question to you is, if we were picking teams for a pro-am pickup game and you're picking either Chet or Paolo, which one are you picking to be on your team?
For Summer League?
There's me against you. And we're team captains. There's a bunch of guys stood on the baseline. We're picking who we want on our team. You've got the first pick. Chet's there. Paolo's there. Who are you picking?
And this is for Summer League, not for the NBA game.
For a one-off pro-am game in the summertime.
Oh, I'm picking Paolo. Yeah.
Would that answer change for an NBA game?
Would that change? Yes.
Why?
If it was an NBA game, because the NBA game is different than a pickup game.
Okay.
Just a pickup game. Like bigs, tall players don't play in the summer.
Well, speaking of bigs,
no one passes the tall guys or the big guys the ball in the summer. Summertime, you get the rebound, you bring it up, you throw it between your legs, you shoot a step back, you do a couple oohs and ahs. For bigs, that's just conditioning.
Well, for a player like Chet, he would try and bring the ball up himself because that's what he was doing in the summer league, trying to be the point guard.
Yeah,
but speaking of bigs, as we're segueing so nicely through all of these topics, speaking of bigs and big bodies, Christian Clark of NoLA.com said that Zion Williamson's $193 million extension over 5 years could increase to $231 million with incentives that include a weight clause. The Duke product will have a periodic weigh-ins, and his combined weight and body fat percentage must be below 295. If it isn't, money can be reduced. And he allegedly is weighing at 285 right now. So he must be at 10% body fat or less in order to collect his money. I've not heard of a contract like this. That's a very odd way to phrase it. I've seen contracts where it's below a certain weight, but the combination of body fat percentage plus weight is very strange to me, given that there isn't one singular accurate measure of body fat. What are your thoughts?
I've seen this a million times. Like, it's no big deal.
Body fat plus weight.
Yes.
Is that so? That's a common thing.
No, that's it first came in vogue, if you will, with Pat Riley and the Miami Heat. Mm-hmm. Guards had to be under 6%, forwards had to be under 8%, bigs had to be between 10 and 12%. There goes my chances of playing for the Miami Heat. Yeah, that's really, a lot of times, because now when you're beginning, as you age, you're going to pick up weight, but you want to pick up good weight. Mm-hmm. And that was the big thing with Zion, was he was already a big kid, and you're going to pick up 10, 15 pounds. Now, you would hope it's good 10 or 15 pounds. So if he's 300, but he's 7% body fat, I don't have a problem with that. What you don't want him to do is pick up 15 pounds and he's 18% body fat. Mm-hmm. So that makes sense to me in understanding the little that I do understand about as guys begin to mature. I mean, you're going to pick up weight. He's going to be lifting, and you just want to make sure that you have the balance between your muscle mass and the weight that you're picking up. And that makes total sense to me. So I don't see, I don't think that's anything new, but maybe it is.
I think
I've seen this
they've had it in probably a lot of contracts, but I guess it's just not a big news story until it's a player like Zion, who everyone loves to talk about his conditioning. How do you think it's common on teams other than the Miami Heat?
Yes.
Do you think a lot of teams have those contracts in place then?
Absolutely. Everyone now every one of my clients, they have to weigh in.
Okay.
The reason being, that's the whole thing. Okay. So all these guys talking about these athletes today, everyone's talking about rest and recovery. That's the whole idea around, load management. So as we are beginning to monitor guys' bodies in practice with all these computers and all of these things and recovery methods and training and all of this, you want to begin to always evaluate muscle mass to, guys losing weight. If a guy is losing weight, but he maintains his muscle mass, that's okay. But what you don't want is guys losing muscle mass, losing strength. Now he gets fatigue, and then he exposes himself to injuries because of fatigue, because of the ratio between his muscle mass and, he's not able to recover. So if you're strong and you're losing weight, but you still can lift, let's just say 245, that's okay. Some guys' body works that way. What you don't want a guy is to do he was bench pressing 245, and then in January he loses 12 pounds, and now he can't even get up 210 on the bench press. You follow me?
Yeah.
All of these guys, so because of the science now, every team is doing this, and they're doing it to the nth degree. So every team is aware of this. I think now, because of the size of Zion, it's probably getting more, but every player is doing this. I can recall back when Kevin Durant came into the league, because he was so thin, but he was strong. Even though he was thin, he was strong. Okay. And it's like Chet Holmgren. Like, he's thin, but long as Chet is strong and he's continued to have the balance that's necessary. I don't know the science, what he needs to be as far as muscle mass to weight size. As long as he's strong where he can control that body, I'm okay with that. So this isn't anything new, Mo, as far as with these teams. And that's the whole idea around resting guys. Supposedly, I say this with quotes, right? When you find that your guys are not in the safe zone as far as their recovery, science says they should rest. The argument now is it's different from every team though. Okay, so that's the argument. I don't think there's anything that can apply to every player.
Okay, well, the last topic for today is a quote. By the way, I just want to say on that is just another example of the media trying to talk about Zion Williamson's size for no reason then, if those contracts are so commonplace. Okay, cool. The final thing, D'Angelo Russell has just tweeted something that I don't really understand. He says, the NBA is full of athletes and not basketball players, respectfully. What does this mean to you?
Well, it sounds like, I didn't see the quote. Maybe you can send it to me.
That is the full quote, in full.
What it sounds like to me is he is suggesting or trying to make the point that the league is, full of athletes and not skilled basketball. That's what it sounds like to me. Now, if we want to pump the brakes on that, I think that's an interesting quote, interesting observation. I would love to hear him expand on that. But you certainly can make the case, because without question, the players today from top to bottom are better athletes. The training's better. They're bigger. They're stronger. We just talked about an athlete now that's 285, 295 in Zion, which is an interesting, you don't see that size of an athlete every day. So without question, we can talk about the athletic ability of Ja Morant and the things we're seeing at the point guard positions and whatever, 2, 3, whatever. These athletes, without question, are bigger, stronger, and more athletic. Now, how does that translate in today's game? How does that translate in the way coaches are teaching today? How does it translate into the rules? We could talk about all these things. I think it's an interesting observation by a current player.
Okay. Well, I don't really know what to make of it, but I would assume that you have to be a great athlete to be in the NBA, but you also have to be a great basketball player. I think he means as well, it's like a lot of teams are just loading up on, I say a lot of teams, we're starting to see a trend of, okay, we're just going to put out Luka and then a bunch of guys that can be play-made for rather than playmakers. But to counter that, it's like, okay, but they've got Dinwiddie and they just have Brunson. They just drafted this kid who's playmaker as well. So I don't know. It's the off season. People love to talk. A lot of people have been asking me about.
What's the quote again, Mo? Can you read the quote? You can read the quote again. Can you read the
NBA is full of athletes, not basketball players. # respectfully. So he's saying these guys aren't skilled basketball players. I'm guessing he means guys that don't do a lot of dribbling and shooting fadeaways. They're just more defensive players, catch and shoot, finishing lobs.
Well, here's what I will say to that. I think we all can agree on the following. I think we all can agree, whatever generation, is that the game is very simple when you compare it to 15, 20 years ago, right? Every play ends more or less in an isolation. Okay.
Pick and roll. Screen roll.
Okay.
Or we're gonna
if
isolate.
you don't know what to do, you just call a guy to go screen.
Yeah.
Right. The guy either does one or two things. Either he screens and picks and pops, or he slips it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The game is very simple in the way they play. I think we all can agree on this. There's only three things happening on the offensive end. A guy is going to shoot a three, he's going to drive to the basket, or he's going to try to get fouled. You don't see a lot of ball movement, player movement anymore. You don't see multiple passes, ball going from side to side anymore. And you don't see a lot of five-man offense. Okay. Now you'll go, well, back in the day, they used to have two guys. Remember when they would have two guys up at the 3-point line, the whole, because of the defense, they would put two guys and they would run a lot of 3-man offense on one side or 2-man offense on one side and then put the other guys in isolation. Okay. So the sophistication of the offenses that you're seeing now is very limited because it doesn't require players to play in a system of play. Think about this, Mo. Most teams just play one-on-one basketball and look for the double team or try to pick out the matchup that they want.
Yeah.
All right. So we want to put Steph Curry in every screen roll. And then once we get the matchup we want, your job is to go into isolation and do one of the following. Either drive them, score, or kick to the open guy when they help. I mean, that's basically, and we're seeing this now in the regular season, in the postseason, and in the NBA finals, where before you would see teams play 5-man basketball, move the ball from side to side, and you would play into a system. And then when the shot clock, which we would call red, player X, who normally is your best player, would get the ball and maybe generate a shot. That was part of your offensive scheme that most teams ran. You just don't see that anymore. So if he is indicating the obvious, I agree with him because there aren't a lot of teams, right? When you watch the Dallas Mavericks play, we're not watching what their system of play is. Okay. Get the ball to Luka. When we're watching the Philadelphia 76ers, we're not watching a system of play. Now, the Warriors are interesting because the Warriors, they ball movement, player movement. When we watch the Celtics, though.
Don't remind me.
Mo, I mean, how many times do we have to watch Jalen Rose ISO from here?
Jalen Rose. Now that would be even worse.
Jalen Brown, and
there are so many Jalens in the NBA now. Have you ever noticed?
I know it's great. It really is. It really is. It's a great story from the late Jalen Rose mom when she created the name. So
she created the name Jalen.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So there was no Jalen's before Jalen Rose.
For Jalen Rose, yeah.
Jalen Rose is the first recorded Jalen in the history of the world.
I want to say her uncle name was Lonnie, and she had two uncles. Like I think her brother name was James, and so it's a story. I don't know. I don't want to get the story wrong, but it's a great story. Jalen's from Detroit. You should read it. Wow. I'm sure you can look it up.
This is crazy.
Oh, you didn't know this story? Yeah, read it.
No, this is crazy.
Let our listeners know. She
exactly
created the name.
Yeah.
It's like her uncle or brother or something, and she combined the names. Jalen, I think James and Lonnie or something like that.
Wow.
What is it? How does it go, Mo?
Well, she was torn between Marcus and Spencer, so she decided to go neither of them. Let me have a look. I'm just reading through the whole story right now. No, wait, am I clicking the right one?
Yeah.
No, I'm reading a story about someone who named their kid after Jalen Rose. But yeah, so
Jalen, just read the Jalen Rose. How his mom how his mom came up with the name Jalen.
Jalen is an invented name. Basketball player got their name in the 90s. It's a combination of James and the name of his father, Leonard, and the name of his uncle.
Yeah. So,
J for James and Len for Leonard. Jalen. That's crazy.
There you go.
That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, Jalen, right? Is Jalen? Yeah. Leonard and James. It was something like that.
Yeah.
And she combined it and put Jalen, and then now you'll see different spellings and everything. But Jalen Rose
right now
is the
Jalen. Let me hear you. Jalen Brunson, Jalen Green, Jalen McDaniels, Jalen Suggs, Jalen Smith, Jalen Jones, Jalen Harris, Jalen Johnson, Jalen LeCue, Jalen Brown, Jalen Noel, Jalen Horde, Jalen Adams, Jalen Morris, and then there's other variations of the spelling. That's crazy.
Oh, you didn't know that story?
I didn't know it. I never heard it.
Oh,
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's my guy. What up, Doe?
You see, BJ, I like to keep it on the court. All the off-court stuff you can talk about.
Oh, stop it! Stop
you can talk about baby names. I'm gonna keep it on the court. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But that's been another week. Hoop Genius podcast. I can't even remember what we're talking about before the name Jalen. But
we were talking about
basketball. Yeah. Left-handed basketball
from Minnesota.
D'Angelo Russell. Yep.
D'Angelo Russell. We're talking about him. But I think he made an interesting observation. Yeah. I really do. I really think if you break the game down, you can make that argument. You can make that argument today because you don't see a lot of teams play team basketball. It's just more isolation basketball. And the thing that let's watch the videos on Instagram and all the things guys working out. No one's working on screen cut spacing. Everyone's working on.
They work out by themselves. How are you going to screen in an empty gym on your
own? I always joke with myself. It's one of my things. And I said, in my basketball career, in Chicago, I'm playing with 2 Hall of Fame players. Why am I working on my offensive isolation game?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why? I'm playing with a guy who averages 35 a night.
Yep.
Why am I working? And then the other guy's averaging 20 plus. Why am I working on isolation basketball?
Mm-hmm. Well, everyone wants to be. I saw this thing today of they were comparing Jamal Crawford and Manu Ginobili, and Gilbert Arenas was answering a question, and he broke it down to, well, who's better one-on-one? But you don't actually factor that in to a 5-on-5 basketball. If we're talking about one-on-one basketball, then yeah, cool. But that's a conversation for another day. Maybe we need to get Tracy McGrady on the show and talk about his one-on-one league. Maybe we need to do that and then explore the obsession of one-on-one basketball now. Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe we will do that. But if you want to hear that, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, leave a rating, leave a comment, share it with a friend.
You know what? Can I just say this one
before
we sign off? There used to be a theme before it's just total isolation called the game within the game.
Mm-hmm.
And only the superstars were allowed to play the game within the game.
Yeah.
Mo and BJ are on the team. Bo's on the Celtics. Armstrong is on the Bulls. Mo, the fans aren't coming to see Armstrong and Muncy play one-on-one. But I would like to see a few matchups late in the fourth quarter where Burr was matched up with Jordan and vice versa.
I have a counterpoint.
Since when did the role players suddenly have to play one-on-one? It doesn't I would like to see. Okay, what's the counter?
I think there are people out there who would love to see me versus you one-on-one. I think that our listeners would love to see that. But I accept your point in the real NBA.
Can I say one thing?
Mm-hmm.
Where your game at?
You're gonna find out. You're gonna find out. And on that bombshell, it's been another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast. Make sure you hit the link in our bio. If you are bored, even for 5 minutes this weekend, you sit there bored for 5 minutes, you're going to sit there and you're going to wonder, why did I not hit the link in their description? Why have I not pre-ordered NBA 2K23? Why am I not playing NBA 2K22 to prepare myself for 2K23. That's what I'm going to leave you on. Let us know if you want to see me and PJ going one-on-one. And until next time, get buckets.